Greetings everybody, TA's here with a new series where we go over the story, interactions, might, and personality of different Fire Emblem characters. Wait. So, for our inaugural video, we will be discussing my favorite Tellius mage. No, get out of here, Soren. No, in fact it's the one and only, the Hungering Mage, the Purple Arcane.
My name is Ilyana. I'm a traveling mage. Do you have something for me? Food, maybe? You know, I'm hungry.
Anyway, that's enough stalling. Let's get into it. Not much is known about Ilyana's early life, as she spent most of her time traveling after leaving her home when she was 12. However, due to her weak constitution, she found herself having some major difficulties surviving on her own, and she ended up passing out on the side of the road. This did bring about a strange twist of fate for our anemic beauty, for whom was to find her but Mustin and the caravan, who would end up being her lifelong traveling companions. As a group, they would travel all over Tellius, both by land, and unfortunately for Ilyana, by sea. After the Mad King's War began in the year 645, Ilyana and the rest of the caravan were caught in a rainstorm and ultimately became separated. She tried seeking shelter in a nearby fort but was caught by the Dayan troops outside of Gable Castle before she could make it inside. Ilyana was left with a choice: either assist the Dayan troops in raiding the castle or face execution. During the siege of Gable Castle, Ilyana was approached by the leader of the troops that the Dayan soldiers were attacking, and after taking notice of how ill she looked, offered her protection along with the opportunity to reunite with her merchant friends who were coincidentally already inside. After the battle ended, Ilyana and the caravan stuck with the Grail mercenaries until the end of the Mad King's War, where she then continued her travel with her merchant friends. 2 years following the Mad King's defeat, Ilyana was once again separated from the caravan along with Amy and arrested by Benyon troops. It's here that she linked up with Micaiah and the rest of the Dawn Brigade, along with the mysterious Kurth, who nobody would have ever figured out who he was because of a hood. After being released by Soth, Ilyana and Amy were reunited with the rest of the merchant caravan and accompanied the Dawn Brigade and later the Dayan Liberation Army. Once Dayan was freed from the direct control of the Benyon forces, Ilyana and the rest of the caravan left Dayan and continued to ply their wares. Eventually, they were hired once again by Ike in the Laguz Benyon War. This time, however, she found herself fighting her friends from Dayan when they interjected themselves into the war on the side of Benyon. When the conflict reached its peak and the light of Ashura turned almost everyone to stone, Ilyana joined the previously warring factions to fight the Disciples of Order. When Ashura was finally defeated, she continued her travels with the merchants and lived out the rest of her life, carrying the memories of the friends that helped her grow stronger. Ilyana has a light affinity, which, while definitely not the best affinity in the game, it does help shore up a couple of her weaknesses by increasing both defense and accuracy. In Path of Radiance, she supports with Gatri, Mia, Mordecai, Zihark, and Lucia. In Radiant Dawn, however, well, we don't talk about Radiant Dawn supports. In her support with Gatri, Gatri does what Gatri does and hits on everything with a skirt. Honestly, the support isn't the greatest since it's very Gatri-centric, and eventually Ilyana just agrees to go to dinner with them because of the promise of food. Gatri does also come with the light affinity, which when doubled with Ilyana's, provides a +3 to defense and a +15 to accuracy. However, in a game where mages aren't treated very well, this is not one of the greatest pairings for Ilyana. Unless you genuinely want to ship these two, in which case, do whatever feels best. With Ilyana's support with Mia, it seems to be a typical extrovert-introvert relationship, with Mia always interacting with Ilyana, being, what I assume, loud, and constantly trying to butt into Ilyana's life and making sure everything is okay, while Ilyana insists that everything is fine and has even seen a priest about it. The support does get a little strange towards the end of the A support when Mia accidentally steps on a collapsed Ilyana, and then Ilyana tries to eat Mia's foot, and goes so far as to say, so tasty. A fetish for some, a tasty snack for Ilyana. Mia comes with a fire affinity, which, like the light affinity, increases accuracy, which is a boon for the less accurate thunder spells, but also increases attack, which honestly doesn't do much in a game that has fairly low res units anyway. This pairing does favor Mia more than Ilyana, but if you're in it for the fan art, then I guess you can't go wrong with Ilyana eating Mia's foot. Ilyana and Mordecai's support is possibly the most wholesome out of the bunch, and it's one of the pieces of evidence I have for a theory we will get into later in this video. It starts the same way as every Ilyana support, with Mordecai commenting on how skinny and frail Ilyana appears, and goes into the must protect mode. Eventually, Mordecai gives Ilyana some money so that she can eat to her heart's content, but that is much more than what Mordecai has bargained for, and even comments on how Ilyana can eat more than a dozen of him. The support ends with Mordecai likening Ilyana to a squirrel and teases her about it, even commenting that she is half squirrel, half Bjork. Mordecai's water affinity, once again similar to that of the light affinity, grants a defense bonus, which doesn't help Mordecai at all, but does help boost the weak defense that plagues the magic users, along with a small boost to attack, which does little in a game with not a lot of magic defense. Ilyana is definitely the winner in this support, but it does fit more in line with how the support between them goes, with Mordecai insisting that she stay by his side and gives advice on how to get big and strong like him. The next two supports both have the best affinity in the game, Earth. While her light affinity does grant her some much needed defense, being able to boost her avoid by plus 15 can make the difference between her being a player phase only character to being able to enemy phase if need be, especially on the two maps which have dragons, or when facing Ina. If there was a trope that had to go with the Ilyana-Lucia support, it would definitely be a mentor-mentee one. Starting towards the end of the C support and the beginning of the B support, it becomes clear that Lucia wishes to train Ilyana so that she can become more agile and avoid attacks rather than protecting her. Lucia pushes Ilyana to be able to run faster and go farther, and go so far as to bribe her with food. It's not until we reach the A support where it becomes obvious to Lucia that there is something wrong with Ilyana, and it not just being her out of shape or weak of constitution. This does not stop her from insisting Ilyana continue to train hard, which she does happily at the promise of Lucia's cooking. Ilyana's final support with Zihark is likely the one that is the most canon, and the best one for her to get. Not only does she get the Earth affinity boost from Zihark, but she also gets, with a Path of Radiance transfer at Ace support, the ability to recruit Zihark from the Dawn Brigade, and potentially saves his mental well-being. Ilyana's naive loyalty to her friends eventually opens his eyes, and reminds him that Dane can, and will, order him to hunt down the very Lagoos that Zihark swore to always protect. In her support with Zihark, he is the only one to lecture her about how she tricks men into giving her food because of how cute she is, and that the least she can do is remember their names. She does have a few talks with others in Radiant Dawn, such as with Soth and Nyla, and has a few unique dialogue options when supported, but overall, those she interacts with just wants her to be well, and will do what it takes to either protect her, or better her so that she can live to eat another day. In Path of Radiance, Ilyana starts with relatively low base speed, but the might of her Thunder Tomes more than makes up for that until she gets a couple of speed or strength level ups. Ilyana starts with fairly average stats, but has large weaknesses in health, strength, speed, and defense, but starts with a D rank in Thunder Magic, which is by far the strongest magic in the game. Ilyana also has some pretty average growths for a mage, with the exceptions of her low speed growth, but heightened strength and resistance growths. While her speed growth is low, she does have the second highest strength growth for mages, only outdone by the Knife Lock Bastion's 40%. With strength being a contributing factor in attack speed, she can get 2 points of attack speed per level. This gives her the potential to wield heavier tomes, but does take a few lucky level ups to start taking effect due to her base strength being only 1, and isn't a huge deal since the heaviest tome only weighs 13. She does come with Shade being her assigned skill. This skill makes enemies less likely to hit Ilyana, but it's so unreliable and sometimes just flat out doesn't work, it might as well not exist. While Path of Radiance may not be the most friendly games for mages, the sequel, Radiant Dawn, takes that up a notch and just straight up hates them. Seriously, why in a game where a mage is force deployed do they hate them so much? And why is the best one only available for the final chapter? Anyway, Ilyana starts off with bases not that much higher than in Path of Radiance, and in the case of Resistance, it is actually lower. Her growth rates are a bit better from her Path of Radiance ones, with a 10% boost to health, an unprecedented 25% increase to her strength, 15% boost to her skill, and an additional 15% to defense. She does take a 5% hit to luck, but it's 5% in luck, so who really cares? Ilyana does boast the highest availability in Radiant Dawn with having access to 23 chapters. Similar to Path of Radiance, she has the second highest strength growth in the game for mages, only being beat out by Tormod's 55%, but because of its terrible availability, it doesn't really mean anything, so Ilyana has the highest. As the only Thunder Mage in the game, Ilyana is also the only one who can achieve SS rank in Thunder Tomes, so in turn, she is the only one capable of wielding the Rex Bolt, which can be a great boon during the tower maps, one tower map in particular. With the addition of the effective damage against Wyverns, this can vastly increase the effectiveness of Ilyana, but Thunder Magic got nerfed and became the weakest in the entire game, so it might as well have not happened. The unfortunate thing though is that no matter how good you make Ilyana, and no matter how many stat boosters you give her, she is still a mage in a Tellius game, so she can't really enemy phase, except when she's on a ledge, and she doesn't really compare to the superpowered units like Ike and everybody's god of combat, Har, even on player phase. If only she could convert the amount of food she ate to better caps. Overall, Ilyana is a shy and meek character, who mostly prefers keeping to herself and doesn't go out of her way to introduce herself to new people, and most of her life revolves around food in order to stave off the constant dizziness and fainting spells. Despite this, she greatly values her friends, especially those that give her food, to the point of naivety, believing that the war between the Laguz Alliance and Dayan was completely useless and her friends should not have been involved at all. In Zihark's recruitment conversation with her, she especially chastises him for abandoning his ideals and principles that she once looked up to. Her hunger though is the oddest part about her character because it has been compared to that of a Laguz and, as far as Ilyana knows, has no link to any illness. Here's where some of the theories about Ilyana comes to light. With the time period and technological state of the continent of Tellius, it is very likely that Ilyana does suffer from a disease that causes hunger and can cause fainting or dizziness if not enough is eaten. On the less severe side, this can be hypoglycemia or hyperthyroidism, which can increase or promote hunger. A more severe case would be type 1 diabetes, since this is something she's lived with her entire life. However, out of these three, I find the diabetes angle to be the weakest one. The biggest theory behind her hunger, however, falls more in line with the lore of Tellius. She has Laguz blood in her. I would not say that one of her parents were Laguz, but potentially a grand or even a great-grandparent. One of the pieces of evidence for this would be that the only conversation she has with Laguz are with Mordecai, who has trouble sensing a branded, and Nyla, the Queen of Hatari, a land that does not persecute the branded, so would not have any kind of stigma against them. Because of her heightened strength growth, and since we cannot see her brand on her hand like the Heron descendants, or her forehead like dragon descendants, she is likely descended from the Beast Tribe. The two examples we have of Beast Tribe descendants are Patrine from the tiger and Stefan from the lion. While Stefan's brand is not shown, Patrine's appears on her chest, and since the only part of her body Ilyana shows off is her legs, it is likely she comes from the beast tribe. But which one would she hail? Cat, lion, or tiger? Due to her support conversations with Mordecai, where he mentions that she can eat more than a dozen of him can, I would personally say that she is descended from the lions. However, the evidence for that is admittedly shaky. Overall, Ilyana is best suited as a backline player phase unit in Path of Radiance, and like all mages in Radiant Dawn, should be benched unless you require a healer or you just enjoy using her, in which case use her to your heart's content. As a fighting unit, I would rate her at 2.5 stars, with her durability and lack of an enemy phase pushing her down. She does have her uses, but in a game that doesn't like mages and is very enemy phase centric, there is only so much that she can do. For her character, I would rate that at a 2.5 stars without the theories or any kind of digging, but with the digging and theories, I would personally bring it up to 3.5 stars, despite her being my favorite Tellius mage. Since she does have access to staves and gains some additional effectiveness in Radiant Dawn, overall I would put her at 3 stars since her difficulty on enemy phase does hinder her a lot. Personally, I would put her at a 4-star unit, but I do understand that that is due to intense favoritism, and a 3-star is more than fair enough. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching my first character analysis, and if you wish to see more of this, please leave a comment down below on who you would like to see in the next one, and don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons. And of course, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.